Safety. It's a big thing in the workshop. If you don't feel safe doing something or you just don't feel comfortable, don't do it. You're the only person who can keep you safe. And if you don't do it, no one else can.
Okay, now what I'm going to do is just do the first little phase of this brush and get it going, brush handle. Okay. So what tool do we use to go across the bottom on the end grain? I will always go for, got a green handle and I can see it, there it is, bowl gouge. Boy, this is slow starting up. I'm going to put that down for now. Alan Batty talks about the bowl gouge as being the best tool in the world because it will do two things at the same time. It will peel on this bottom edge here. I can point at that with something. I can point in here. Gotcha. This bottom edge will peel just like I did with the skew gouge on there. It will peel. And this bottom edge here, as it comes up around the corner here, it's going to slice. It's going to slice the wood and leave you a much better finish. And he's right, whoever invented this is a genius. What they did, they took a flat scraper and they curled it up. But that finish there, off of one tool, is quite good, quite acceptable. That's the first cut where it was rough. We get it a little better. We take the second cut. I'm just picking up, rubbing the bevel here to find the angle that I want to hold the handle at. Okay, the next thing I want to do here...
How do you keep it from cupping in?
Well, Diane, you saw what I did to start with. First thing I did was, I'm looking at this bevel on the back, and I went like this to find the level, and then I just kept that same angle all the way across. So I'm going to drill a hole in the end of this. So there's lots of ways you can put a dimple in the end. This is one of them. If you have a birdcage brattle, sorry, close, I guess, birdcage brattle. When it's rotating, you can see the center. So I'm taking this little, everybody know what a birdcage brattle is? There it is. It's square on the end. And it got its name from when they used to make bird cages from reeds and things, and they had a tool that they would just make a hole through it for tying the reeds and strings together and that. That's where it got its name. This was my father's, so it's very precious. We often talk when I'm using it. So if that happens, just talk amongst yourselves. And by doing it that way, I started off like this, and I'm supporting it on here. And then I just roll it into the middle. And if need be, if I've got a little wobble, I can just lean down on this end so it's on the rest, and that will force the other end up and it will center it. So if you have to drill a hole in there and you need a little center, that's one way of doing it. It's the way I tend to do it now. I used to use a ruler. The ruler's very good too. Didn't bring a ruler with me. But anyway. Okay, I've lost something. There it is. Now I'm going to put a Forstner bit in here, but in order to pilot the Forstner bit, I'm going to put a little small pilot hole in there just to guide the Forstner bit. An easy way to drill a hole through something is that. It will self-center. You'll feel it pull you whichever way it needs to go to be running through, and you just go that way. In you go. So while you're drafting or drawing or sketching your finished part, the other thing I do at that time is think of a sequence of steps, and one of the pages I sent round was the pepper mill, and you can see I numbered them there, 1, 2, 3, 4, etc. And what's important for me at that time, like I come from a machining background, and so we used to get drawings on the floor, and you had to make so many of these parts, and you were given so long. So you'd look at it and you'd say, okay, how many have I got to make? I've got to make 50. It's worth me doing some tooling for this, and tooling up. I only got to make one. Now I don't want to spend time making tooling. So depending on how many parts you're going to make will sort of influence your decision on how much tooling, special tooling you're going to make for doing it. Okay, so when I'm drafting it and I'm thinking about it, I have to make a decision, how am I going to hold it through each of those phases? So in doing the handles, what I thought of was I will make a little mandrel, this is the mandrel I made. I'll drill a hole in here, and I'll put a hole in the middle that this screw can go in, and I'll put that in there and screw it into the block. Now I can use this in a collet shop. I can put it in, take it out, put it in, and it's going to stay true. If I was only going to make one, I would cut the wood a bit longer and I'd hold it in the jaws of the chuck and I'd part it off.
You're going to show us how you did that, what you're going to do with that, right?
With what?
With that?
Yes.
Yes, okay, because I didn't follow that.
I'm gonna actually do it. As soon as I can find that little Forstner bit, which I saw earlier today, so I do know I have it. Oh, there. Well, talking about that, I only recently got frustrated with all this looking for tool. So I took about 3 2x4s, about this long, screwed them together, drilled holes in the top of them, put a bolt down through it and a thing. All my tools now sit just there, bang, in one of the holes in there. And so I color coded them next so that I would know it's sitting in there. Oh, I want the green one. Or I want the blue one. Or I want the brown one. I want the black one. Whatever. So being organized is a good thing, but I was even thinking of bringing that with me here, but the length of the bed here on this, I didn't know if I'd have enough room to put it on the end or not. No. So I didn't bring it. I brought enough anyway.
We'll go and visit Richard and change all those colors.
You would too. I always slow it right down for the Forstner bit. And for those of you who've been paying attention, you'll notice on this little preacher that where there's a hole, like because I know what the threads per inch are on my thing, I do put a depth, and this is 15mm, but I also put 9.5 turns. So for me to get that depth from when it first starts to cut, I know I've got to go 9.5 turns, right? And I would count them. I'm not counting them in this case. I'm just going to go till it's about there. Be good enough for this one. Oh, I keep going the wrong way with it. And you'll notice my elbow is many. Here, you got to take this out because you'll cut your elbow on it. Oh. Then again, that's over here, isn't it? No sense. Where there's a will, there's a way. Now, because I didn't have the right size force in a bit, I'm going to have to do a little hollowing. Normally if you're going to do a lot, you're going to have the right size force in a bit, but it's going to cut that exactly right. So you can see the hole's a little small for this mandrel. So I just have to open it up a little bit. And over here somewhere, would you guess? Well, first you don't find that one, we'll use this one. You all know this one. This is my, that's all. That's all. Had this one a long time. One of my old favourites. I use it for many things. I'll show you how to cut a bead with it a little later. But it was scraping a ball pretty good too.
Show us the orientation of that without your hand in the way.
No. Oh, my hand always has to be in the way. Yes, Diane. I'll try to, Diane. I'm getting close. The orientation. Now, oh, I see. We've got a big picture here, don't we? So it's that way. Okay. Much better when you have a Forstner bit that's the right size. This tool has like a little skew on the end of it, a little tiny skew just there. Which way is it going? And then it's a V from the top, and it's a little bit of a negative angle on the top. And I knew you wouldn't have a compressor. You have to have a blowpipe. Oh, yeah. Doesn't have to be that tight, but that's good enough anyway. Okay, now, remember I said we need another hole for this screw to go in. So our Forstner bit always had a little point in the middle. So in the middle of this, there's a nice little central point. Oh, good. Drill a hole. That hole serves several purposes. It's for the screw. It's also, when you come to glue the brush in it, it gives the glue the extra glue somewhere to go out the way down the hole. Now I don't want any fuzzies sticking up off that hole, so I'm just going to put a little chamfer on the end of it with the ball gouge. Just put a little chamfer on the end of the hole. When I put the screw in, it might pull back the fibres a little bit. Pull up the fibres. Now, the thing I nearly forgot was the wrench. Now this little mandrel, and I have a few of them now, one end fits the hole, the other end is 3/4 of an inch. Chucky. So, little collet chuck. Put it in there.
So Richard,
Yes.
instead of a collet chuck in that, would you have not put a Morse taper on the end of your,
Yes. What I would ask you is what's easier if you're making them, and you're going to make maybe half a dozen.
Well, you need the collet chuck, so...
Yes, but you could make this with a. And what I would probably advise you to do is Busy Bee sells these. It's Morse taper with a 3/8 threaded hole in this end, and this end is 1 inch round, and it's soft. So you could turn this down that would go in the hole. Now, how you get that screw through there and into the wood, I don't know yet. But that's
the shaft is the only thing that they harden?
yes, yeah, the end here is soft. Well, it's not as I say soft, you know, you file it, machine it. Okay.
But be careful when you're buying them, because that one is a cylinder, which is designed to be machined.
It runs very
Also
true
get
though.
Some of the slate taper on it, which is supposed to go to the back of a Morse taper chuck.
It's runs very true though. And it even has a center in the end of it that you can pass a drill down quite easily. Collet chucks come with a selection of the collets that you put into the nut first. And when you push it tightly together, it closes the collet down. And now, somewhere, over the rainbow. You have to have a key for your car. And just tighten it up. Well, not as tight as I thought it would be. How come?
Must be the wood.
Might be the wood. Yeah, it might be. Maybe I didn't make that hole quite as right size either, so that. That's a little better. So now that hole is running true on the mandrel, and following good practices, what we would normally do is bring up a center against the back of that to give it a little more stability, and we'll turn it into a cylinder. Using, well, we know now it could be any of these. It could be the screw gouge. Could have used the roughing gouge. Roughing gouge has two little skew gouges that come with it, one here and one here. So that when you're using that, if you want to use it as a skew, you just use those edges. Or we could use the other one, turn it over the other way. So we've got all kinds of skew gouges. Now, this is where the preacher comes in. Anybody got a pencil? No?
Right here.
Yeah.
Oh,
It's a mechanical one, but it should still work.
You wanna,
Probably want a wooden one might be better.
so on that preacher that I sent around, you'll notice that there are some prominent points here that I want to know where they are on here. So it has a little hook. The little hook goes on the end of the wood. I draw a line, like so, and all those relevant points. Take my pencil and extend that line a ways around there. Thank you for the pencil. Now I have another little special tool here. Oh, so many special tools. Maybe I've got another special tool here. Yeah. Got a black handle.
Had a black handle.
Had a black handle. Don, you been at work? Where the devil did it go?
It's under the front edge of your tray on the bench.
Heather is
Yes, there it is. Thank you. What an eyesight, eh?
I tell you, I don't sleep all night.
Where's that camera? I'm going to rotate this slowly. See what a funny looking little tool this is. Can anyone guess what this is for?
Open heart surgery.
Looks like a little parting tool.
Yes, yeah. Now a lot of people at this point, when they come to size the diameter with a set of calipers, will use a parting tool. What's the problem with that?
Got it all the way.
Parting tool is square on the corners. So if you're marking the depth of a cove, and then you take the parting tool down to that depth of that cove, out on the side you've got some square corners that go deeper than where you want them. So this little tool here is sort of shaped that it will match the calipers. It will give you clearance for the caliper to go in, but it's round. So it's just like a parting tool. And you can poke it in, use the caliper. When the calipers pass, you're at size. So that was the number 1. This one I set to number 2. Yeah, that's right. Number 2 is here. And then number 3, which is smaller again. And then I'm just going to mark with a line there. That's all we do with that. Now at this point I've established 2 things. I've established some lengths and some depths. So now I just have to blend those together. Piece of cake. And this is where I tend to use this tool. Could use a spindle gouge, could use a bowl gouge. But I found what the attractive thing about this tool, which originates from 2 people really. There's another fellow out there who advocates slicing. His name escapes me for a second here. And he advocates having a finely sharpened tool. And Myron Curtis, who had the idea, I think, originally, of having a tool like this. There's other tools on the market. There's like gouges without a hollow in them.
Skewgy gouge?
A skewgy gouge, yeah. A number of tools like it. Anyway, this one was easy to make. So this is how I ended up with this. Now, because this has a picture of what I'm making, mine's metal here. I put it there and it sticks and I can have a nice picture of it. it reminds me of what each of these points is and where I'm going from it. Now, I use this like a spindle gouge, just like a spindle gouge. The hand movements that I make to shape it are the same as if you're using a spindle gouge. So now, if you're using a spindle gouge, it will do probably an even better job than this. But there's a catch. What's the catch? A catch. Spindle gouges can catch. This one is remarkably safe, remarkably uncatchable. It will catch, but the catches are not as vicious as they would be with a skew gouge or a spindle gouge. But it's the same. I'm holding it like this in my hand, and I tend to cock my hand. If I'm going to go that way, I'll grip it like this so that I've got the movement left in my wrist. So I've got my depth set. I know I want a radius down to that front where the brush is going to be. There. Now, my next one over, I'm going to come down this way, and notice I change, I'm doing the other way, just like on a spindle gouge you would be doing. Okay, and this one is down. I think you all know, any of you who've turned, that to just do that, just with a spindle gouge, there's a good chance you're going to get a little wake-up call. Now I come back to my That's All, wonderful tool this, and what I want here is a bead. And the bead, one side of it is going to be here, and I can use the little skew side on it over here. And the other side of the bead is going to be here. See that a bit big there. Seems to have met some resistance there, so we've now cleared the material away, so I can roll this one down to the base of the bead. Now about here, I'll often decide I want to sharpen it a touch. So all that's involved, have a little paddle here that has some wet and dry emery on this side, piece of wood, and some leather on this side. So now the first ones of these I made, and some of you have them, had a hollow grind here. I've modified it since then. I put a flat face across here so it can be sharpened on both sides. And just like that. That's all it takes. And then the leather, just to strop it a little bit. Bingo. We give ourselves a new edge just that quick. Now this is very old wood, and I notice it's breaking up a little bit there. So I have the baby of this one, same thing, only smaller. And I'll use that for rolling that little bead that's there. Just because there's less of it to get in the way of everything. rolling a bead is not often that easy. It's not bad.
See the finish on it from here.
Pardon?
You can see the finish from here.
Yeah, it's
on
not
it.
bad, yeah.
It's like you polished it. Or...
Yeah, it's not bad. And we'll finish off this end a little bit now. I could be doing this with a skew gouge. It would make, you know, just as good a job. In fact, the skew would probably make slightly better job. But one thing that's hard to do with the skew and the spindle gouge is just to come in and go at 45 degrees. I wouldn't say it's hard, it's harder than this. Okay. And we'll just stroke off the bottom there. What tool am I going to use? Oh, there was a prize. There was a prize for that.
Oh, God.
Diane, you should have known that. Now they asked Myron Curtis, how tight do you push on that? He said, just the right amount. Push too much, it gets hot. It's not all brittle, isn't it? Good enough.
A little warm on the fingers.
Yeah. So now, what next? We're going to sand it. How we go for time? Okay. I think. I use popsicle sticks a lot for sanding on small stuff like this. And I use 3 grits of sandpaper. 180, 220 and 320. And the popsicle stick, I don't know if you can see that.
Let me just back out a little. Yeah.
I shape the ends so it's round. And I do that because when I'm coming into the edge of a bead here with this, it goes right into the corner then.
What kind of wood are you doing?
It's pine. You can smell it?
No, my nose started tingling. I don't know
Oh.
what it is.
Well, I tell you one of the things I've done while I do this in my shop recently. I have a Triton head shield and mask, you know, and I was never happy with it because it never blew enough fresh air for me.
Put on a 1 horsepower motor.
So what I did, I bought a bathroom ventilation fan and built a little holder for it that I have secured up above me, and a pipe from it down into my Triton, and I now get a blast of beautiful air. I filter it with a cartridge filter out of a shop vac that's sold through the shop vac. It didn't come out of the shop vac. And I've been turning all kinds of different exotic woods, and that was starting to really bother me. And then I modified my Triton helmet, and it's wonderful. I'm turning in fresh air, which is what I always wanted from it. Because I have a vacuum system sucking this away too. I'm not going to be too fussy with this, guys, because it's more about the process, seeing the process. You can all execute the process and spend as much time as you like to bring your pieces to perfection. And whatever it is, whether it's a duck call or whether it's well, what are the other things that you could make like this? What are the
Peppermills even.
peppermills? Yes.
Bottle stoppers.
Yes, bottle stopper. Yeah, perfect for bottle stoppers. Yeah. All those kind of things. A similar method would work. Now I thought if I had time, I do have time, I would also include in this some Nova Silk. Oh yeah, I did bring it. I was just going to say, but I brought it. Yes, I did. And I was... Oh, that's where I... You've seen this before. I did a little quick pre-meeting demo of this. And I'm lost without them now. Popsicle sticks. This is my highest grade sandpaper. But you'll notice how it does shine it up. That's a secret. Don't tell anybody this. It's expensive. Don knows he has to buy the left-handed one, don't you, Don?
What is that you're putting on it?
Whoop! This is Nova Silk, Diane.
Available at most retailers.
RJF Industries.
Yeah, it got me. It's, as far as I know, it's a very similar product to Triple E and Yorkshire Grit. There's another one out there too. I can't remember what it's called. But
Well, Librion turns out some kind of a wax stick finish. Whatever that happens to be. As if again, it's a wax compound that sometimes.
I can't quite hear you, Norm.
Librion turns out some kind of a wax
Yes.
stick.
Yes.
It's a hard stick with some kind of abrasive.
Is there abrasive in it?
Some sort of thing.
Yeah. Could be.
Proprietary formula on it.
Ah, yes.
I think we might sell them here. Is it used for scratch repair?
You do sell the 30 years too.
Yeah, I think we still do.
A couple different grits, grades of the stuff. Primarily for paintmaking.
Actually, maybe I'm thinking of the stuff that's...
We use the same thing for the CA
No, I'm
glue.
thinking of the same
Pardon?
stuff.
We use the same method for the CA glue.
Yes, yeah, yeah. Well, this isn't a finish. This is an extension to the sanding. I stopped sanding at 32. I missed a step. I shouldn't tell you that, should I? I missed a step. Normally when I sand to 220, I put sanding sealer on. Then sand to 320 after that. Then do this. So I missed a step. But you know how to do that anyway. This is, without changing the belt around, I'm not going to fiddle with that. This is as fast as it will go. I usually, this is 16 something, 1700. I'm normally up at about 2,500, 3,000 at home when I'm doing this bit. And there's still product coming off on here. You have to then go to a clean piece of towel to finish getting it off. So all this does is take your sanding from 320 or 400, wherever you stop, on up to, I'm guessing, around 1,000. It now feels very smooth and silky and shiny and soft. And now you would put your finish on. And I do have some 2-minute finish here, I believe. I'll just put a little drop of that on. just so you can see, and then I'll be pretty well done. So if anybody has any questions, I'm here.
Does your method change significantly depending on the material you're turning?
No.
Like tonight it's pine. But what about resin impregnated wood or the?
If it's a what?
Aluminite or whatever.
Lumelite. Lumelite, I'm not quite sure what that is, no?
It's apparently it's some kind of a two-part epoxy that you can
Okay.
also color and do stuff with.
Well, the only experience I've had recently is, since I've had my Nova Silk, is with acrylics. And it's wonderful on acrylics.
And what's that you're putting on?
2-minute finish.
2-minute finish, that's what it's called.
That's what it's called. I called it that.
Another secret family recipe.
No, no. This is shellac. Shellac you buy in the home hardware store, Zinza shellac, right? And boiled linseed oil, I use double boiled linseed oil like Don, and equal parts of each. And I kind of discovered it by mistake. I was going for Captain Eddie's OB Shine Juice, and I thought I had some. What he had said was, he adds alcohol. He has thirds: alcohol, or denatured alcohol, boiled linseed oil, and shellac. And what he had said is that the alcohol will evaporate. So mix up the other two, and then when you want to use some, pour a quantity into whatever you're going to dispense it from, and add half the amount of alcohol. So I had mixed up the two parts, and I tried it. And I was so happy with it, I never bothered with the alcohol. There is alcohol in shellac, so there is already some in there. Now the nice thing about, one of the nice things is, this is dry now. So if I want to put another second coat on, here I go. I put a little on the paper towel, we'll add a second coat. And in about the same time, this will be dry again. If I want a third coat, keep going until you're happy.
Where do you buy your double boiled linseed oil or something?
At, what used to be Proudfoot's, what is now Home Hardware. Home Hardware is one place I know that sells it. I don't know if anywhere else does.
Hard to find it, that's the only place I get it.
But I believe just boiled linseed oil. Whatever you do, don't try and boil linseed oil yourself. That's not what it means.
Zants in Sackville carries double boiled linseed.
Pardon?
The Zants in Sackville.
Okay.
Zants Home Hardware has double boiled linseed.
Yes. Well, I first heard about it from Don at one of his presentations. And I thought, that's interesting, so I got some. I liked it.
Is that all you use for a finish? Or do you put something on top of that again?
You can if you want.
Because alcohol,
Yes.
water soluble.
Yes. If I was going to do that, I probably wouldn't put the 2-minute on. I'd stop after the Nova Silk, and I'd put on my wipe-on poly, or one of the ones I want to try in the near future is epoxy, an epoxy finish, because I think that's impervious stuff, like, you know, it's plastic. So I'm keen to try that. Now, how do we get this out of here? Oh, yes.
Just a quick question, Richard, about your finish.
Yeah.
How impervious is that to like your hand, like oils in your hand and stuff?
Oh, absolutely.
I've used shallow wax before on stuff and
I don't know what's in shallow
it's
wax.
gone. It's just shellac and a wax.
Yeah, I don't know.
And you know, after 3 months or 4 months use, the shine's
You asked
gone.
me in, well, next month I'll tell you what a month of use of a shaving brush with that finish, just like you've seen
Yeah,
this.
okay.
Well, in fact, I might bring it in. It's going to be. Did I pass it round? No, I didn't. This one. I'm going to use this one. When I get home tomorrow, I shall be using it, and I'm going to use it for a month and see what it looks like, because I don't know the answer to your question.
Okay, because I've used it on pens and stuff before, and after a month or 2 months of using the pen, the shine's gone, the finish is gone, and it's just from
Well, I've used it on pens and it seems to stand up good
Okay.
too, but
Yeah, I was just comparing this, your
yeah.
finish to shallow wax. 'Cause
well, yeah.
20 years ago, it's still shiny.
you don't use it? Jeez, I'm getting as bad as you are, Don, for zinging.
So is that, I'll put it in.
Oh, try it.
Maybe I'll put it
Oh, yeah.
over here, shall I?
I'll get it.
Do you glue in the brush or?
Yes, epoxy, 2-part epoxy. Yes, no.
If anybody cares, just for a side note, Zinsner's shellac is a 2-pound cut in the can.
Which is about the average, eh?
So that's what you're starting with, the 2-pound cut.
What does that mean?
There's, I believe it means
1
there's 2
gallon of-
pounds of
2 pounds
shellac
and 1
to-
gallon of alcohol.
is it a gallon?
A gallon.
Okay.
Oh, it's already pre-mixed when you buy your.
Yes, yeah,
Oh, I
yeah,
was thinking
it's
you
just,
had to buy like
no,
the flakes
God,
and
no.
Mix it up yourself.
I've got some flakes, I've never used them.
Yeah.
Um, Okay, any other questions, or did I make it in the hour and a half? I did, yes, hour and a half.
Oh, yeah.
Very good, gentlemen, ladies, that's me.
Thank you.
Okay,